tell you that. So, all right. So, tobii dynavox, a little overview of the devices and the company and our philosophy. Tobii was a company and Dynavox was a company. Tobii is a company from Sweden that specializes in eye gaze technology, and Tobii AT, Assistive Technology, is a small part of that company. They sell eye gaze technology to a variety of industries like air traffic controllers. They sell to Mercedes-Benz. They do all kinds of interesting things. The eye gaze devices from Tobii look like this. Dynavox is a company doing its own thing in Pittsburgh for about 20 years, and they've had a variety of different devices as well, mainly touch access devices. And the two companies came together in 2014, so I'm lucky enough to have two completely different product lines to offer to people. So they use different software and they have different interface, but as a rule, we can meet whatever the user's needs are as far as access and level of communication, etc. So you know what AAC is. This is my little addition to it because I happen to love this quote. It's from the IBM Training Manual from 1991. This is how long ago people have been talking about this. For people without disabilities, technology makes things easier. For people with disabilities, technology makes things possible. I think we can agree with that. And all people have basic right to effect through communication the conditions of their existence. You've probably seen that quote before. So different types of AAC that you've no doubt been talking about are no tech, as in gestures and things, low tech, as in paper and pen and communication books, that type of thing. Light tech, I personally have never seen the little Tobii light thing. Have you?
Not Tobii's version, but going back to earlier in the semester, our intro information, we talked about in the high-tech category, static display communication devices. So they were the devices I think I mentioned in my information about the GoTalk device by the Attainment Company, where it's a paper overlay that you stick in. Okay, so that's the equivalent.
With a button and it says one thing.
Exactly,
and, yes.
Right, and you record the message into each cell. So it's a very simple form of electronic AAC.
And then we have what we like to call high-tech, which are the type of devices we're going to see and work with tonight, the I-series and the T-series. You probably talked about this too. Maybe only 5% of the 2 million people in the United States that need or have a communication disorder actually have a device. And apparently the main reason for that is they don't even know they exist. That's kind of bizarre, but true. So, who's a candidate? I'm sure you've dealt with this at length. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jump in.
Yes.
Anytime.
No, yes.
Stroke, CP, etc. ALS. I personally see mainly a lot of adults with ALS and stroke victims, and a lot of youngsters with autism and Rett syndrome. Because every person has the right to speak their mind. Okay. So we believe it should obviously be fluid and work with the person, be easy for them and easy for the people around them, and let them communicate all of their needs no matter what situation they're in. If they're a child, it should support their literacy development as well and encourage interaction and of course be level appropriate. So this, I don't know if anybody can see this, but this is actually explained on each machine when you run the wizard, and it's basically emergent up to independent communication. And what we do in our wizards is have you answer a series of questions. You probably know going in, depending on how well you know the patient or the user. But if you don't, you can answer the questions, and it'll basically assign one of these levels. So we've got software to handle all the different types of communication levels. Again, condition sets, CP, autism, TBI, etc. So the two options, again, this device would have communicator on it. Keeps flipping over and it flips over by himself. There he goes. This device would have communicator like you're seeing there. This is a tobii device with and tobii software. It's definitely, it can be used for young children, children with Rett's, etc., anybody with eye gaze. It can be used with touch and with a switch or a mouse as well. But if someone is at a higher level, an adult, higher level cognitive functioning and just wants access, this is the one to do it. And we'll learn more about why in a little bit. Compass, which runs on the tablets, is another powerful software. But as a rule, it doesn't provide a lot of other functions like a lot of these people that don't even have hand movement, can't even use their television remote, etc. They can do all that through a tobii device. They can't really do it through Compass. But as a rule, people using Compass don't need that because they can usually use touch. To overgeneralize a little bit. So Communicator 5 was software we introduced about a year ago. Communicator has been around a while, and it's our software, and we actually made it a lot easier to use for the user and for the caregiver or the SLP, which is my personal favorite. So you'll see why when we do the hands-on, but basically we've, again, have the wizard, but you can actually, when I said it will select a level for you, you can actually then pick and choose menu style features from the other levels that you like that might work for your user as well. And there's a caregiver button on the side that lets you basically access anything at any time to modify it. So it's really a great tool, and it takes what is a pretty complicated device and makes it pretty easy for the caregiver to interface as well as the user. So Communicator 5, again, on the emergency, yes, on the emerging side, cause and effect, we've got page sets for children that are just learning that, oh my goodness, I looked at that and it did something. It spoke, or it made a noise, or a tune played, that kind of thing. Then symbol, which is the next step up, where you're looking or touching a block with a picture on it and it says something or does something. And then the keyboard, which again, you're looking at or touching, as a rule, looking at. And we have a dwell-free keyboard now as well. A lot of the users that I meet that are really, again, cognitively intact, ALS type situation, adults are using the keyboard for the most part. And the dwell-free lets them look around the keyboard without really having to pause. They don't have to hit the space bar or anything. When they're done, they look up at the top and it puts it together for them. It's really hard to explain, but it's really cool when you see them use it, and it makes people very excited. And again, it makes for a fluid conversation. There's not a big pause while the person's typing. They're looking at it and they're answering, and you're having a conversation, which is the goal. So for the symbols that we use in the variety of Compass pages, or I'm sorry, Communicator pages, are symbol sticks. We do have PCS symbols as well, but the ones that are available right now have symbol sticks in them. I don't know if you have an opinion on them one way or the other.
I'm not a huge fan, but I know it's a lot of business decisions with the symbol sticks over the PCS. So the picture communication symbols, or PCS, they are owned by the Mayer Johnson Company. They have been around for forever, AAC, I think back in the 80s, right? They are the symbols obviously used for the Board Maker project and PCS symbols. However, they are not used as often now in high-tech AAC as much because of, I understand royalty agreements and different, they're expensive to use. So I don't know.
Well, they're actually a division of Tobii dynavox, so we do use them, but we use them in Compass.
Okay.
We don't use them in Communicator. And I'm going to guess that's because
Of
Dynavox and Mayor Johnson had agreements before this merger. I would suspect, I'm just guessing, nobody's confided in me, that we're going to migrate those over to Communicator as well.
Okay,
There's
so
no
you
reason
might
we
see
wouldn't.
them then eventually,
Yeah.
but yeah, because of those
Yeah.
business decisions, then
Yeah.
PCS isn't in the devices as much as I would like them to be. I think the simple sticks, I think they're, my opinion, sometimes hard to understand once you go into representing core vocabulary and more abstract vocabulary that's not nouns. So, but, you know.
They don't do anything for me.
Yeah, so because they're stick figures, simple sticks, and stick figures. So they don't obviously, you know, sometimes it's hard to tell what the stick figure's doing when you're representing verbs and other vocabulary.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So that's just again my opinion as a clinician. But
they're yeah. So you said it better than I can.
Yeah.
Within Communicator 5 are these content packages. You don't really need to know them because it, like I said, it will kind of assign them based on your user's needs, and you can borrow. So if you had a young child using Sono Primo and you wanted to take a game or a tool from literacy, for example, you could do that. They're all in there, and it's kind of transparent to you, which is nice. It used to be in the older Communicator you had to choose, and it doesn't work that way anymore. So it's very nice. Again, we're showing the different levels: Primo, Flex, working your way up to Symbols, Lexis, and then Writer's Scribe. I don't know what happened to this image. It's on my computer, but it doesn't show up on here.
Okay.
So Sono Primo, Sono Flex. You'll see it in real life here in a minute. Sono Lexis, Literacy, again working their way up through.
Could you back up? Back up to the Primo slide. Okay.
The Primo's, I don't know where his picture is.
Just to reiterate, these are different page sets, vocabulary programs that are available in the Communicator 5. Okay, so to kind of explain it, it's similar in operation as what you're going to be doing for your iPad project with Touch Chat. Okay, so to help you better understand what these are offering. So with the Sono Primo, the Sono Flex, the Lexis, okay, the Literacy, they're all different page sets, okay, that you can choose within the Communicator 5, okay, based upon the language level of your client. Okay, so Sono Primo obviously is very basic for emergent communicators, and then it's going to then start to expand over then to Sono Flex, where if you have a child who is able to do some more symbol combinations and a little bit more generative communication, generative language in their messages, okay? And then Lexis, you get more vocabulary. It's organized more, again, in a core vocabulary format on the main screen with color coding, okay? So you're getting a little bit more advanced there in your ability to generate more complex messages with more appropriate syntax. And obviously Literacy, okay, kind of, you know, is what the name is, you know, for individuals who have literacy skills who are using spelling as a primary form of communication. Okay, so does that make sense then? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's another one missing. Yep, there, now it's here. I don't understand. Anyway. So again, within the Sono levels, there are literally hundreds of page sets. And you can make your own page set, and that's something we'll talk about a little more. But up on our website, there are hundreds and hundreds of page sets that you can download and put on a device, so you probably don't need to make one from scratch. So you're not locked into each of these screens in any way, shape, or form, just so you know that. So there is, WordPower is available now on the the tobii devices. It was something that we had on dynavox devices like the tablets. It is something that is available now, and it does use PCS, etc. Word Power can go from, I think, 20 to 150 options, so it definitely can grow with you. And again, all these page sets, they're there. You don't buy it with a 20 and then you have to get a new device to move to 40 or 80 or something. They're in there. So they're there to grow with the user. So the supports I started to mention a little bit. There's a quick access menu available for the caregiver. If there's 3 buttons on the left-hand side. The bottom one takes you to the caregiver menu, which is really cool because you can change any of the settings in there, from eye gaze to touch to voice. You can go in and set up Facebook. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. You can also just go back to the home page, or you can add a page set, or you can move them around so they're in a different order. Oops. There is a quick start guide. It, again, will ask you a few questions and basically assign a level, but then you have access to all the page sets, and you can go in through caregiver settings and pick and choose different functions and different features from different page levels to suit your user. Then we're on to Compass. Moving right along. Compass can actually also run on the tobii devices, just FYI. So if it's an interface issue with someone that needs to use eye gaze, for example, but they prefer Compass, Compass will also run on the tobii devices. So Compass comes with 8 page sets. I'm going to give you some handouts on this too as well. And again, you can find the one that best meets your user's needs. There are 2 premium page sets that are not included. They're available for a little extra charge. Gateway, which you talked about, Gateway.
Some of these page sets that you'll be able to see, Gateway is one, and Word Power is another one when you do your touch chat project. And so, and then if you listen to my iPad lecture, I went through Word Power a little bit on that one. And I may have mentioned Gateway, but I don't think I went through it on my lecture, but it's one that you can explore on your own when you download the touch chat app on your iPad.
There seem to be a lot of people who've been in the field for a long time that are devoted to Gateway, and I can't speak to it one way or the other, if it's because they like it so much or it's because it's what they're used to.
Right.
But Gateway has been available for quite a while on different platforms. And now there's other options, basically. So there's Gateway, there's Pod. Word Power comes with all the Compass, with all the tablet devices. Gateway and again, Pod are extra. But obviously, if you met someone who's been using Gateway on an older device and they were migrating to something new, you'd probably want to get Gateway. It's just different ways of vocabulary, using vocabulary. So we have, for efficiency, quick fires, which are basically one-word answers, quick phrases, which are, a phrase. Again, something, so if someone walks in the room and says, hey, what do you want to eat now? Or what, do you want to watch TV? The person can answer quickly. They don't have to type, they don't have to search, they can just hit a button. And then we always have topics available. There are dozens of topics that you can pick and choose, and you can add your own topics. There's also core words. There are keyboards, which you can move from ABC to QWERTY with word prediction, without word prediction, word lists. There's a lot of ways to get that message across. If a conversation comes up about something that you don't have a topic sign, you look in the word list, and there's going to be dozens again and dozens that you can scroll through and tap the one that you want. You're talking about animals, you're talking about food, whatever, and it brings up those words. For younger people or people with other, with conditions with behavioral issues, there are behavior supports. There's a timer and there's some scripts. there are basic ways to try and talk someone down from the ledge and get them back on track with what you're trying to do. So an example of the compass page sets is there's a nav bar, and next to it you see one for stroke and TBI, and they look very similar. The topics are listed along the edge on the left-hand side, as well as the different options for quick fires and keyboard and everything. And a lot of people find that simpler to deal with than having a whole page full of options. And look, my options are over here in a row. The master page, by contrast, has everything in a grid type format. So you're selecting usually in an alphabetical order, but it doesn't have to be the topics that you want. Some people they just feel better with that. Whatever works for them. All access is a page we use generally with people using scanning. So it's laid out again in a grid like this, so that the device itself will highlight a row and then each selection within a row, and the person will hit a switch when they see the one they want. Core first, here you see the Fitzgerald key. Navigator and text-based are the ones that I generally see with, say, stroke victims and people, again, who are cognitively fine, but they just can't get those words out. So it's definitely at a higher level. It is a level certainly that a younger person could migrate to, and again, all the pages are in here. But there's no pictures, it's text-based. It's a more adult type pages. Word power, again, included with this and available on the tobies. And here's your gateway, which is on here if anybody wants to look at it, and pod as well. Here's your PCS. Another setup wizard in Compass. This one, you can skip it if you want. Again, it's going to ask you questions about your user, and it's going to try and assign a level for you. You can change that level at any time, which is really nice. So once you pick nav bar or pick master page set, you can go in and change the levels from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. It'll change the look and feel of it, but it won't totally, the user won't be lost because it's still their same page set. It's just going to add more options for them. So again, we have, excuse me, I'm losing my voice for some reason. In the tablet size, we have where did I put them? Here he is. The T7, which is our smallest little guy, and 7-inch screen. So the number after each one is telling you the screen size. I don't see this used a lot, to be honest, but I have seen little tiny guys, 3, 4, 5-year-old guys using this. Something even as big as an iPad type device is too big for them. And you might find an adult or a teenager that needs to use something like this that wants something that's a little more discreet that they can tuck away, and they would like a T7. They all have the same features, it's just the size of the screen. The T10 is the next size up. It looks like an iPad, but it's not. These are all Android-based devices. And the T15, which I've been showing you, has a nice big screen.
Do people understand the difference between Android tablets versus iPads?
The operating system?
Yeah. So, like some of you may have phones that aren't Apple phones. So you might have the Samsung Galaxies and those kinds. Those are Android-based phones. It's sort of like similar to more PC world, if you can think of it that way, versus obviously your Apple devices are Apple world. Okay, so so the T7, T10, T15, okay, they run, they're like an iPad, okay, but they're Android-based. Okay, so they're not a full computer. Okay, it's not like a full tablet computer. It's still has limitations like an iPad would. Okay, but it's just an operating system is the Android. So.
This is true. And I come from the world of IT and the world of AT, where I've been about 11 years, and I used to work with blindness devices. The same thing was true there as well, because everyone loves Apple and they're great, but they don't play well with others. They don't want other companies using their devices. They don't make it easy for companies like Tobii or like Humanware or different companies that do assistive technology to use their devices and to write programs from. They just don't. And they don't have to. But Android does. So if you're going to see a device on a tablet, you're probably going to see it with Android, because they just make it a lot easier for other companies to develop software for them. That said, so again, the 15 has a nice big screen if someone is in a wheelchair or has vision issues or tremors and they still want to use touch. It might be easier with them with a 15-inch screen than with a 10 or a 7. The Tobii devices come in a 12. I have two 12-inch devices here, and there's a 15 as well. Again, all the same functions, just the actual size of the screen. Some people we find with eye gaze, or again with touch, it just needs to be a tiny bit bigger, and they can work it a little better. So, Communicator 5 is available on all the eye devices, as well as on a Surface Pro tablet. Just a quick note. All of these devices are funded by insurance, which is something when you're out in the world that we would be talking about. They're funded by insurance, by Medicare, by Medicaid, etc. But things like the Surface Pro are not. They're actually less expensive, but they are not, because they are open devices, and that's a whole other discussion I don't know if you want to get into. But
we went through that. So.
Yeah.
The T series and the I series, they're SGDs. Okay, so and then obviously the Windows Surface is just a standard open market item that then you can run Communicator 5 software on. Okay, just like the iPad that you can download your AAC apps.
Yes. So I don't want to talk about this too much, but we do also have a light writer, which, to be honest, the only time I've seen it used, I have a couple of people in rehab centers with people that are, bedridden, ventilators, etc., but they do know how to type, and they use these type devices. So it's a little keyboard, and everything that's typed also is a bit of, visually available for the other person that you're talking to, as well as it's spoken aloud. And it does a lot of word prediction. We're trying to make it easier for you to use. If that isn't an option for someone in that situation, it's usually going to go right from this to eye gaze, because a tablet is usually just awkward for them to use if they do that all the time. But it depends. So we can look at that too. Do you really want to talk about the light writer?
No, that was enough. Yeah, just to know that that's something that's still available.
It's
an oldie but goodie, as I say. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's been around for a long
Yeah.
time, but like I said, some patients, it may be good for something. If you work in a center or have a budget, that you would have something like that you can give patients on a temporary basis. Okay? Or again, if a patient's just used to that keyboard-looking kind of device, that's still available.
And it is some people they just can't relate to a flat touch screen.
Right,
they want
more
tactile
keyboard,
keys that make a noise and that they can feel. And that's fine, that's why we have it. So PCI Go, again, uses the eye gaze technology, but you use it with your laptop or nobody has a desktop anymore, laptop computer. And you can use it then to do anything that you would normally do on the computer, but you're going to do it with gaze interaction. There are people who are not disabled that use these for programming and games and that type of thing. Again, not covered by insurance. Same thing with iMobile. iMobile is the same thing, using it with a computer, but it includes the actual computer if it's a bundle type situation. Gaze Viewer is one of the software that we have available. All of the Tobii devices, when it comes to eye tracking, have some software with like 30-day trial available on there to get you started, in particularly for someone that maybe is they have to learn eye gaze. Some people take right to it, some people don't, especially youngsters. Gaze viewer is something that would help you assess whether a youngster is able to use eye gaze or not, because it actually tracks with software where the eyes are going. You can look at it later and kind of use that to assess. We have hundreds of thousands of kinds of mounts. It's unbelievable. Basically, if you have a wheelchair or you have whatever, we can figure out a mount that will work for it. And they're generally completely custom for each one. There are a variety of parts that we put together and come up with a mount system. The simplest being not really a mount, but a little stand. And a desktop type stand too for maybe the tobii device. Access. So we didn't really talk about access methods. Have you?
We have in the as it relates in the textbook. I didn't lecture formally on access methods, but here is just a good review of the different methods that you can use to access AAC. So obviously, direct methods are touch. So touching, obviously, the device, with your hands or some other type of adaptive equipment, a splint, head pointer, something like that, still would be considered direct access or touch. Scanning is, I believe I gave you videos of scanning in that week. Okay, so that was demonstrated to you. So you're using some type of switch, okay, that you're activating in order to make selections. Right, Carol has an example of a switch there. So what's happening is a highlight is moving across the screen, okay, to the different options. And when you see the option that you want highlighted by the device, that's when you hit your switch, okay, and it makes a selection for you. Obviously, you can use a mouse to interface with a lot of the computer-based SGDs, okay, joystick is still around, I guess. Not used as much in my experience, not so much, but it's still around. And then obviously, we're here tonight to really look at the eye tracking and the eye gaze, okay, which tobii dynavox is known for. So eye gaze is still a direct form of access, okay? It's not indirect like scanning, okay? In that your eye movement, okay, is directly moving the cursor, okay, on the screen, okay? So you're directly interfacing with the device dependent on your eye movement, okay? So it's still considered a form of direct access. Morse code was around way back when. You could use it. It's really not used today, really, because really we have eye tracking and eye gaze now. But some of these methods were used years ago when we didn't have that technology. Obviously, you know what Morse code is. You basically were using a single switch like Carol has, and you're tapping out the sequence, okay, of the letters equivalent with Morse code. Okay, so I believe Stephen Hawking may have done that to some extent with Morse code with his switches, okay, so but he's not doing that anymore, again, people who are very physically impaired, that was a method, okay, of using spelling, okay, when they couldn't interface with a device with a keyboard, okay, to allow them to do scanning. So okay, so also just to clarify too, so as far as eye gaze, only the I series, correct, offers eye gaze. Okay, correct. So I know Carol was going through the tablet-based Android devices that are offered by tobii dynavox, the T series. Okay, they do not offer eye gaze. Okay, so they scanning, correct? Right? Scanning is offered on the T series, and obviously the methods, for touch, direct access. But if you need eye gaze, then you need to look at the I series devices.
And there are people that use the eye series that do not use eye gaze. You don't have to use eye gaze.
Not solely, no. Yeah.
And sometimes we'll see someone with a degenerative condition that doesn't need eye gaze yet, but they get the tobii eye series because at some point they're probably going to migrate to that.
Right. So if you have a patient with ALS who is having difficulty using verbal communication successfully, but is still able to use their hands for direct access, or they may want to use a mouse for now. Okay, they may not need to use eye gaze at this point in their illness, but the eye gaze component would be there for them when those other methods would become difficult.
All right, so I think we did this. Just FYI, one of the things that's a little different between these tablet devices and maybe an iPad are certainly the construction. They're Android devices. They're all made with Gorilla Glass. They have a 2-year full warranty. They can be replaced up to 3 times in that 2 years. We don't care if you run them over with a truck, we'll replace them. But one of my colleagues actually will toss this across the room to prove how durable it is. You're not going to see that here tonight, but they're pretty durable. And also with the software that we have, Simple Touch, we call Simple Touch, but we have different settings within Touch and Touch Enter and Touch Release to accommodate different people and their needs, especially, again, if they have tremors or if they like to drag their finger along the entire screen until they find the one that we can accommodate that for the most part. And then if it's just a matter of trying to keep your finger on the button you want, we just have little key guards that are just simple little plastic key guards that go around each button to keep you from sliding off into the next one. Switches I showed you, there's a variety of switches out there as well. There's little clip switches, there's all kinds of switches. SIP, mouth air-driven switches. I have not seen a fiber optic, I'm not sure what that would be, but a lot of switches available, again with scanning, and you can change the pattern, whatever makes sense for the person that you're working with again. Usually you're going to use a single switch. Some people use a dual switch and have 2. To me, that's a little complicated, but and then we can have auditory cues with a different voice or with sounds, and we can have zoom when you select. So there's different ways to try and make it as easy to use as possible. Joystick, again, I've never seen, and plenty of people in power wheelchairs, but I've never seen anybody using a joystick. Have you?
I have maybe 2 clients over my 20 years of working in AAC. Okay, yeah. So it's not, but it's available, and for these particular clients, it worked well. Okay, so just obviously it's like a joystick, like for gaming purposes, same kind of concept that you're directing the cursor on the screen, okay, with the joystick. Okay, and then you can either then press a button to select, or you can use dwell. So there's different ways to use the joystick.
So nowadays, a lot of people have, obviously, even if they're not big computer users, they've used a mouse. I met a man recently that could sort of use touch, could sort of use eye gaze, couldn't use a switch at all, but he could use a mouse, lo and behold. So sometimes it's just nice to have a basic thing like a mouse around. Mm-hmm. Wireless head pointing, we don't see that too much anymore, but if someone has enough movement and control to move their head rather than just use their eyes, to be honest, insurance would rather have you use a head mouse that's going to point at things than to have them use eye gaze. But I personally haven't run across it myself yet. So.
Yeah, it requires a lot of good head control. Okay, so head pointing, typically you have like a little reflective dot that you stick on your forehead, and then you see on the bottom slide there's a little a camera there, okay, that watches that reflective dot. Okay, so your head movement then again translates to mouse movement on the screen. Okay, so again, wherever your head is moving in space, that's moving that mouse around. So again, you have to have good head control. I've seen some patients who've had brainstem CVAs who still had good head control be able to do head mousing. Individuals with CP, it's still been tough because, again, they have that all-over body effect with CP that still head pointing was still difficult. So I didn't have a whole lot of success with the CP population with head pointing myself. So.
Just out of curiosity, why is that preferred by insurance?
It's cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
They like you to at least rule it out. I mean, if you know the person and you know that this is not happening.
Right, if it's not going to work, it's not going to
Just-
work.
Do they usually want
Just
you
rule
to,
it
do you
out.
have to document that you tried the head mask first?
Yeah, in order to justify funding for eye gaze, yeah, you do have to document that the other methods that we've talked about, like scanning and head pointing, are not going to work, you know, for the particular client you're working with.
That's a whole other topic, is the speech reports.
Right.
But just FYI, when you get to that point, we hope to be a resource for you. We come out and meet with you and your patient and try different devices and different access methods. We have a whole funding department that handles all that interface with insurance or Medicare, and we have templates and things that we can provide to help you with the speech report. So eye control is the coolest thing, and I know you probably would rather be doing that, so we're going to finish up here quickly. So basically, as we were saying, it tracks your eyes rather than your finger to control the device. I don't understand dark people dark. I don't think you need to. It's basically a reflection. It's coming back at you. When you use this device, what you'll see is there are two cameras and there are two lights, infrared lights, that are bouncing off your pupil, basically, to track where you are. And that's how eye gaze is going to work. To oversimplify. Some guy just spent 10 years in a room
Developing it, but that's how it works.
Yeah, so it is truly just another access method, and for a lot of people, it's the only access
Right.
method. When you reach that point, you know, it's a godsend. Sometimes, again, you can't move your eyes. Sometimes you have a ventilator, you just can't, you're not moving around. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. So whether they're in a wheelchair or in a bed, eye gaze opens up a whole world for people, and it's wonderful to see.
So these are, questions here that can justify the patient's need for eye gaze, and that's something that you can incorporate into then your report that you would write, based upon your findings, if they would need eye gaze.
Yeah. So again, we have technical support. They're there from 9 to 9. We have funding support. We have a whole department. That's all they do in life. Once we get the paperwork together, is they deal with it and work with the insurance company. And then you have people like me and David, who you know, and my other neighbor reps. We're everywhere. We're everywhere you want to be. So wherever you happen to land, there will be a tobii dynavox rep. And again, we're here to answer questions, to provide resources, and to meet with you and your patient and help out in any way that we can. We do have funding information and funding forms on our website. I usually bring a hard copy with me when I go to meet someone for a meeting and they're doing an evaluation, but it is on our website as well. You can do it right online. I don't know anybody that does it, but you can. One really cool thing that we have is mytobiedynavox.com, and you could go and sign up for a free account there anytime. It might be interesting for you at some point as you're going to these classes, because there's a lot of good information out there. There's videos, tutorials, documentation, questions and answers, just a lot of good stuff in addition to the hundreds and hundreds of page sets and things that I referred to. It's good stuff. And another thing you can do there is, when you are using these out in the world, if, for example, you're seeing someone once a week at an office and their parents are working with the device at home and you want to modify page sets, you can modify them and save them up on the cloud. We have our very own cloud. Apple isn't the only one that has a cloud. So you could save them on the cloud, and the parent or the other caregiver could download it, put it on the device, and you don't need to see the patient to do that. Or you can just back it up there, and then you know you've got it. So it's kind of a nice a nice thing to have. And again, the tutorials and things are really, really nice. So when and if you do sign up, there are different accessible levels. There are for parents and caregivers. And SLP, when you have your ASHA number, if you sign up as an SLP, you get the highest level, which you can download the communicator and the Compass software onto a laptop, or Compass can go onto an iPad as well. So you can use it anytime you want to. Again, videos, lesson plans for schools, also plans for integration of these devices once you get them, goal writing, lots of good stuff out there, trial guides. There's also links to the Medicare website where, again, there's speech report guidelines, evaluation tips, etc. There's a lot of nice information. Should we do this thing? Let's do some hands up and then maybe I'll show the videos. I think this is, yeah.
Maybe, yeah, just
You wanna
maybe
do
a
the
couple
videos?
videos, and then once I think we start to get into groups, then we'll might get
Alright.
kind of into that. So.
Let's see. So the videos didn't work in the PowerPoint. So this is my personal favorite. This is eye gaze. This is. And this is a real person. This is not an actor.
I am 33 years old and have autoimmune disease for 2.5 years. I live in Sheffield with my wife Sarah and 2 sons, Charlie and Maxwell. I have been unable to use my fingers to type since around November 2013. I have used the eye gaze system since then. The communication software has been the biggest improvement. It is quite slick and fast. The 12-3 keyboard is so quick, I find I have to really know what I want to say. It is sometimes quicker than my mind. The device has been integral in helping me remain in work. Also, I have set up a microbrewery. We have made around 15 brews so far. I was even able to design a logo and pump clips. I don't think you can underestimate the effects that being able to communicate can have. It is critically important for me to be able to communicate with my sons. Thus, Daddy can turn the cartoons on which they appreciate. It is so important to my family that I am able to communicate with my sons and wife. It has made a massive difference to our lives. You don't have to live without a boss.
So let me get your name.
It's Zanny.
Sandy. And Sandy, where can I call you? I need your phone number. Oh.
7.
You can't call me.
Awesome. Very good. I'm going to mark it down and we'll give you a call next week.
That's sweet.
All right. So we're going to use the rating scale. How are you feeling about your device? Great. After today, we spent time talking about it. What do you think about the snow outside? It really is ridiculous. There's a lot. That's right. Good. What about the pain scale? The one with the numbers. Do you remember how to switch to that rating scale? Yes, exactly. That's great. How are you feeling today?
Good.
Good. So 1. Awesome. A 10. 1 out of 10. Really good. That's great. What do you think?
No.
The way you wrote it with a pen on the paper, you wrote for us that you wrote 40. Well, you wrote 49, but you're actually 46. So, can you write it with your finger on this whiteboard? Exactly. 46. Great. Okay, Sandy, so I'm going to come back on March 6th.
Yes.
Does that work for you?
What?
On that day, I'm going to bring your device back. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I'll have that. And I'll just come in the front door.
Sweet.
Okay.
Sweet.
Good. All right. That sounds good. And what are you doing that afternoon? What time works?
What?
I could come at 2 o'clock. Would 2 o'clock work for you?
Sweet. Sweet.
Great. So I'll see you then.
Sweet.
All right.
And one more. We'll do one more.
Oh, tell me about your pumpkin.
I love it.
Come on. Well, what about it?
I love it. Can I have it?
Yes, you can have it. Come on. You want it? You can have it. Yep. No problem. What do you think?
Take it home.
You want to take it home? Okay, then put it in your cart.
Take it home.
Yeah, if you want to take it home, you gotta put it in your cart, man. Yes. Then you need to tell me. Go ahead.
I love it.
You love it. I know you love it, buddy.
I love it.
I know.
I love it.
I know you do.
So those are some examples. I think that's enough.
Sure.
Great. You want to see one more? I have one more. I think we all need to. I really.
Okay.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
That last young man, Creed, there's a lot of videos on him. His mother, I think, is an SLP, and she has done a lot of really nice videos with him. So, all right here. So, questions, comments, hands on. Anyone?
Any questions so far?
Are you able to share that with us? I don't know if you said that or not.
The videos are on
No,
YouTube.
the PowerPoint that you did.
I don't think so.
Okay. No, that's fine.
I literally just got it, and I'm
Okay.
not, yeah, so I'm,
Yeah, it's probably company proprietary information,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
just take some general notes.
No, I did. I was
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
yeah, it's fine.
but
Okay.
anything you want to know, take my card, email me, I'm happy to provide information. How do you want to do hands-on?
Okay.
There are a lot of bodies.
We have
Few
two units with eye gaze.
Let's not everybody fight over the light right now. Yeah, I've got 2 eye gaze devices.
Okay,
Since
and
they're
then you have the
most fun, we can
T10.
try them first and have another group of people using compass.
There's 25 of us, right? 26? No, thank you. Yeah, let's break off into groups of 3, maybe 3 or 4. So maybe one group here, one in the back. Maybe kind of I don't know, kind of try and do it that way.
No.